Hello buddy, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 quick match gameplay. This time around we are on the steppes of Gorgazan, playing as the forces of the Empire against the forces of the Dark Elves. Both armies definitely far from home here, in what's going to be quite the bloody battle. In this match, my opponent was actually Yumi's. We ran into each other in a quick match, so always fun. For once he decided to take a change of pace and is not running dwarves, so it's definitely going to be a bit of an interesting matchup. Now, for my build here, it is a fairly standard build that I like to run. I'm sure some of you guys have seen something similar in the past. I've certainly run similar builds in the past as Empire. For my Lord, I'm going to be running Gelt. Now, Gelt is mostly here so I can get a caster while bringing some cheaper calves, so I can get armor sundering. Really, this is the biggest sort of priority. He brings Plague of Rust to the field. You can debuff enemy armor by a whole bunch, and that allows units like Knights of the Blazing Sun to trade very well into Cold One Knights. Because one of the things I don't want to do is to rely too heavily on Demigryph Knights, which can then be sniped down very quickly, focused down very quickly by AP missiles, or isolated, overrun that way. I'd much rather rely on some cheaper cav. Besides that, we do have Searing Doom for the squishier Dark Elf troops. We also do have a Final Transmutation if my opponent happens to blob, brings a bunch of heroes, that sort of thing. Or even if it's just a big cavalry fight, Final Transmutation can be devastating. And besides that, we of course have Arcane Conduit and the Staff of Alans, providing me with insane winds of magic. For the front line, it's a pretty motley crew, some Spearmen with shields acting as a bit of a buffer. The Sigmar Sun's in there, as well as a single unit of Flagellants, sort of as an unbreakable anchor. These guys will trade rather well with lower-end Dark Elf troops, even with Witch Elves, and really, they're mostly here just to slow Yumi's down, buy me some time, while the rest of the army does work. And the rest of the army is quite a meaty force. We do have 2 units of Outrider with grenade launchers, an excellent unit in many matchups, and really, really stellar against Dark Elves. Because Dark Elves tend to have very low HP per model, they tend to have very compact formations, and they have very bad range on all of their missiles, except their artillery. Even their artillery has bad range for artillery, but all of their missiles really have pretty poor range. Outriders with grenade launchers can perform admirably, and can just decimate the enemy infantry formations from a safe range. So hopefully they can perform that in this match. Besides that, 2 units of Knights of the Blazing Sun out on the periphery, sort of acting as a screening force. These are really my main hitting power against any infantry that my opponent might bring, or their cavalry. And then we do have this sort of death ball of chevron up demigryphs. I had some gold left over, so I decided to chevron up some demigryphs, halberds, as well as a warrior priest, fully kitted out. He's got benediction, he's got hammer of Sigmar, soulfire, and shield of faith, as well as an empire captain with hold line, which gives me plus 12 leadership, very critical on Empire Cavalry, which tends to have bad leadership, actually, for how expensive it is, and will hopefully help me win any cav fights. Finally, 2 pistoliers out here on the flank to counteract Dark Riders, as well as to chip away at enemy lords or key targets over the course of the game. Now, Yumi's decided to go with a wide infantry-centric build. For Lord, he is going to be rocking Marathi, who is quite a powerful force. Oftentimes you'll see Malekith here, but Marathi is certainly no pushover. She's got great winds of magic generation with life leeching and greater arcane conduit. Of course, she does have the, he actually did bring the passive for Lord of Dark as well, so she's got a little bit of armor sundering, if I can get on top of her here. Who doesn't want to get on top of Marathi, but just dropping armor by 15. She also does have Heartrender and Darksword, which is going to be debuffing melee attack and defense in an AoE. Weirdly enough, we are not seeing a Enchanting Beauty here, which would debuff my melee attack by a further 9, so I'm a little surprised we're not seeing that. Perhaps the money just didn't work out, but there is a Melkoth's Miasma and Soul Stealer, which is going to grant Yumi's some pretty solid damage output, and of course heals from Marathi. 2 masters are down on the ground. One of them does have a Guardian, so this is quite the elite anti-large force. Definitely mixed in with some cav, they will do very well against my cavalry and my heroes. Frontline, Blackheart Corsairs, the Sisters of the Singing Doom here on the flank to sort of snare my cav if they try to get in. And with the Blackheart Corsairs, he should be able to mulch a standard Empire infantry line, but that's where the Outriders hopefully come in. Besides that, some Dark Riders to screen any skirmishers and to sort of pincer and harass the backline if I had brought one. 3 units of Dark Shards, Unshielded Variant to cut down the expense. These guys very brutal against against Empire heavy cav, and can really lay the withering fire down on any Empire targets. And finally, 2 units of Cold War Knights here in the back, as well as the Hellbroni, providing a bit of an anti-large buffer. Now, immediately we are going to see some grenades flying into the ranks of the Blackheart Corsairs and knocking them down by a massive amount. Already, they've lost about 1,500 HP in a single volley of grenade fire. The return fire is very ineffective, and this is where you can see that short range coming into play. 125 range versus 100 range on the grenade launchers. Dark Shards cannot get into range before the grenade launchers fired a volley, because there's obviously that zone between themselves and their friendly melee troops. And so these guys have lost already a good quarter actually over a quarter of their HP in that single volley. So it's brutal stuff. And now the grenade launchers unloading on the poor Witch Elves, who are even worse protected and are losing a quarter of their HP immediately. So really not very good there. And I'm simply cutting back. Now, I didn't make a bit of a misplay here. I actually do get a nice little snare here on these Dark Riders. They got baited away a little bit. Tiny little slip up for Yumi's, and he's going to lose these guys very quickly, these Angry Knights of the Blazing Sun. But a little bit of a slip up here. I initially pushed forward with my infantry, which I should not have done. I should have just been pulling away immediately. But the faster speed on the Dark Elf infantry means I am eventually going to have a fight here. I'm not going to be able to just kite like a scumbag and whittle these guys down over time. But we are going to pour in as much fire as we can. The Sisters of the Singing Doom having an absolutely awful time of it, losing another 1,200 or so HP, actually more, down to 2k now. Just those grenades having an absolute field day, and there's not much Yumi's can do about it. But he is forcing me to engage now. The Flagellants are going to dive in. The Sigmar Sun's going to dive in. The Spears are going to deal with the Sisters of the Singing Doom. Now, they are immediately mincing through these poor Spearmen, but with the whittling down they've experienced, they aren't going to last too long. Well, on the flank here, Pistoliers looking to get an angle, as are these Knights of the Blazing Sun and my cavalry contingent. Now, I'm going to try to engage here on Yumi's Cav Force. You can see the Spears pushing in, as are the Demigryph Knights and my Hero Squad, and of course, Balthasar Gelt permanently hovering over top. Over here, Dark Shards unloading into the Knights of the Blazing Sun, doing a good amount of work, and Yumi's doing a great job here, pivoting his cavalry and his heroes, looking to interdict these guys and force them back. So I'm going to lose some models there. Not what I had wanted at all, losing about 1,000 HP. In that, well, about 500 HP in that second volley, but taking quite a bit of damage. But here in the pits, we are going to see a brawl of brawls breaking out. As Soulfire comes raining down, all my troops buffed up. Soulfire actually does a lot of damage in a blob like this, and I'm going to be dropping a final transmutation on this pocket of Dark Elf troops. The Masters are in here, the Cold One Knights are in here, more Cold One Knights are actually pouring in there, which means these guys are going to be bleeding models too. Unfortunately, the overwhelming fire means the Demigryphs don't last. They get eradicated really, really badly there, but everything else just gets decimated. All the Dark Elf Cav here is suffering hard, getting massacred. And my Hero Squad sticks around. The grenade launchers continue pounding away at these Dark Shards units like that. Over here, the Cold One Knights engaging, but I'm going to hit them with a Plague of Rust. That is going to make them more vulnerable to my spears, as well as these Knights of Blazing Sun. But I think Yumi's is actually coming out on top. Despite that final transmutation, despite some of my plays there, he's actually kind of squeaking out the win here. The Masters are going to crush most of my cavalry. Knights of Blazing Sun here run off. The Demigryph Knights were broken off as well. And at this point, it's mostly just this like overextended Hero Squad, a handful of Pistoliers who are disrupting the Dark Shards here, and some beat up Knights of the Blazing Sun. I guess the grenade launchers and Gelt, but those can't really fight. Unfortunately, the captain here does overextend and gets gooned out by the Masters and Marathi, so huge misplay on my part. But the Knights of the Blazing Sun do compromise these Dark Shards, beat the crap out of them. The Sisters of the Singing Doom still have 3 models here, trying to get in on the Knights of the Blazing Sun and apply that Rampage, but I am having none of that, just trying to get the hell away before the Rampage applies. And successfully squeaking away there. Just barely, though, taking massive damage. Yumi's just spamming Melkoth's Miasma. Now, this is one thing. One of the perks on Knights of the Blazing Sun is a magic resist. And for those of you who don't know, and this is why you should bring Knights of the Blazing Sun, especially against factions that can bring Spirit Leech. 25% magic resist might not seem like a lot. It is going to mitigate damage from Melkoth's Miasma. And in fact, if your opponent attempts to Spirit Leech you, they will not be able to kill entire models. So that is why they are an excellent counter. Over here, grenade launchers are doing cleanup in line against the Black Ark Corsairs, just eradicating the enemy infantry. Right now, Yumi's doesn't really have the tools to save his infantry. They are going to die, and honestly, the grenade launchers can eradicate all of this by themselves. Over here, we are going to see another Soulfire raining down from the Warrior Priest, doing some immense damage in a blob like this, taking Hellbroni down by a good 900 or so damage. Unfortunately, though, I'm not able to focus out the Masters, who are doing a very good job here, doing quite a bit of damage. Though, with their 50 melee defense, they are kind of starting to suffer a little bit against the Spears. They're definitely taking some of that jab damage. Warrior Priest popping Shield of Faith. I really should have gotten the Warrior Priest on top of this guy at this point, try to get the Master sniped out. But instead, I'm just letting him beat down an infantry, which is a misplay for sure. At this point, Yumi just dives in with Marathi, and he's going to focus on sniping out my Warrior Priest, who I can't really protect. Sister of the Singing Doom down to 1 model on 18 HP. They shatter. Wow, what a shocker. Soul Stealer goes down, melting this pocket again. And is going to heal Marathi, though. I haven't focused her. I kind of ignored her because I know that she's got heals, and I'm focusing everything else, so the heal's kind of wasted there. In the meantime, Outrider with grenade launchers here, eradicating the infantry. The Dark Shards are being put into the dirt by those grenades, just getting wailed on. This is not where you want your missiles. Grenade launchers are just disgusting. 69 kills here, 98 over here, almost upper chevron on each of them, and just doing, this guy actually just broke a chevron there. And just annihilating my opponent's infantry. That said, balance of power is dead even. The entire battle hangs in the balance. The Hellebroni here, backed up by some Blackheart Corsairs, are no pushovers. And my hero squad has been, well, annihilated. The warrior priest there falling, having fought tooth and nail for Sigmar's. For Sigmar, but yeah, too little too late. He's now dead. Now, more Melkos Miasma going down. I think this is a mistake. The Outrider grenade launchers at this point are almost out of targets. There's not much they can do. At this point, Yumi's really needs to focus out the Knights of the Blazing Sun, Balthazar, and the two Pistoliers, because those are really the primary threats at this point to his hero squad. Not the grenade launchers. I think that is a waste. But the grenade launchers here are going to have a field day with the infantry, mulching the Hellebroni, showing why you don't mess with black powder explosives. The Knights of the Blazing Sun are going to get put down, but not before smacking back a little bit, doing some damage to these masters in this brawl. And the Pistoliers are going to pull forward. I'm at this point just desperately trying to get good damage on the masters, I've popped my Arcane Conduit and my Staff of Valons here, and as Morathi gets close, I decided to focus Morathi with the pistol fire, because she has very little armor, 40 armor. She does have some physical resist and some missile resist, of course. If we look here, we can see 15% physical resist from Guardian, 15% missile resist. But against the raw Withering Fire of the pistols, it's not that much. And we are slowly but surely wearing her down. She's now down to 2,400. We've taken about a quarter of her HP off. But Melkos Miasma here is going to hit me, slow me down, make me catchable by these very annoying masters. So I'm actually going to commit my grenade launchers here. One of your grenade launchers is doing cleanup here against the Dark Elf infantry, removing them from play. And over here, I'm going to use my Outriders to bog down the Cav, because I just do not want my Pistoliers dying. Right now, if Pistoliers survive, I'm confident that I can kill off Morathi and probably kill off these heroes. If the Pistoliers die, that's not going to happen. And I at that point, I'm screwed. So we are trying to focus on Morathi here very aggressively, just pouring everything into her. She is also now wandered away, which means that the Masters are not providing Guardian. Balthazar are going to go for a cheeky dive here. Doesn't actually hit, I believe, on the charge, but it is going to be a bit of a duel of the mages here, as Balthazar going toe-to-toe with the vile witch there. She's just caked in blood, while Balthazar is still very much pristine. She's going to try to pursue, but I'm way too fast for that. She's not going to be able to catch me. And the Pistoliers now getting those free cheeky shots as the Outriders bog down the Masters. Balance of power is now shifting more decisively in my favor. My infantry is pulling back into this fight. The Outriders are now cleared up, but they've got 120 kills. They're going to be able to pull back in as my opponent's infantry is gone. Yumi is going to dive Morathian. I dove Balthazar Gelt in here. A little bit of bait. He had a final transmutation up our sleeve, and down it goes. Overcast final transmutation on this pocket, and these guys are going to have a bad time. The Master is melting. Morathi is melting. No amount of magic resistance saving you here, and these guys are going to collapse. Morathi falls, and a Pyrrhic victory for the forces of the Empire. So, a very fun and pretty darn tense game of Empire versus Dark Elves. I think there were some misplays on both sides, and it came, but at the same time, I thought both of us played rather well overall, and as a result, the game came down to a very, very tight finish. For myself, this is as far as the builds go, I think the build I brought here is a very strong anti-Dark Elf build. I've been running a build similar to this one for a while now. Dark Elves have a terrible time against grenade launchers. They don't have good tools to counter them. Their own range, foot range, and cavalry range is just too short. The majority of it can be gunned down by the grenade launchers themselves. Like, if you try to put Dark Riders with crossbows against the grenade launchers, they're actually still going to really give you a bloody nose. And infantry, you can just shoot the infantry while the screening missiles cannot get into range of you. So really, only artillery, and I guess the Scourge Runner Chariots would be strong against these guys, but Scourge Runner Chariots are generally not good against Empire, so you basically never see them. Pistoliers, excellent for focusing out those single entities. You saw how Morathi suffered at the late game there. Plus, these guys are great for whittling down, sort of just poking damage against enemy Dark Riders, so your grenade launchers don't have to waste their time with it. They can help poke down even more heavily armored troops if you use Plague of Rust. Knights of the Blazing Sun, same thing. Excellent against the infantry. Very good against the Cav with Plague of Rust. Demigryph Knights give you a slight, solid anchor. With the Empire Captain and the Warrior Priest, they can really hold out way longer than you'd expect. Even here, focused out by 2 Cold One Knights, 2 Masters, and Dark Shard Fire. They were able to hold out for a decent amount of time, got 19 kills, basically all that against Cold One Knights. So they did work, and the warrior priest and empire captain just bring that cap force together. And then the infantry component here is very solid. Sigmar Sons, flagellants, and spears. They can either hold very well, or if the situation calls for it, they can do great cleanup work. Now for Yumi's build, personally, I'm not a big fan of foot missiles in this match. I think you'd be better off bringing Dark Riders with repeater crossbows. This build though is very much like right on the money. There were for example, even Enchanting Beauty was cut on Marathi. So squeezing in repeater crossbows at that point would require some tangible cuts on these other troops. I think the build overall is solid. I just think that you'd probably be better maybe like cut the 3 Dark Shards here, get an extra Dark Rider, and then like 2 Dark Riders with repeater crossbows. Maybe that would be better. I'm not entirely sure. I didn't feel like the Dark Shards performed that well, but I guess they did do some damage against the Knights of the Blazing Sun. Though that was also kind of my bad. That was kind of a misplay on my part, not shutting them down well. But really, I think the main problem here is that you are going to get... Outriders are very hard for you to shut down. Outrider grenade launchers. You don't have much to counteract them. 2 Dark Riders are not going to cut it. But besides that, definitely a solid build. I think the double Master Marathi and Cold One Knights give you an excellent counter force to Empire Cav play, unless Empire player invests super heavily, like full-blown Demi-Blob with Karl Franz and Warrior Priest and Lore of Life. Even then, I'm not entirely sure, because Soul Stealer, you've got 3 anti-large heroes in there, 2 Cold One Knights, and I'm actually even not confident with that, but I think that this is an excellent build to counteract the Empire melee cav play. And the infantry force here is going to be good enough to counteract really any Empire melee play, except like Great Sword Spam, but that's not common. You're not going to see a lot of Great Sword Spam out of Empire. Really my only critique, I guess, the Dark Shards. But as far as the gameplay went, there were a few slip-ups on both sides. I got overzealous on a flank with some of my Knights of the Blazing Sun. Took insane amounts of damage on them. Lost about like 2/3, or not 2/3, but about 1/3 of their HP, or maybe even half their HP, for essentially no gain early on, which was just a massive misplay. Let my Empire Captain get overextended and shut down. Pushed forward my infantry early game, which meant they got caught more easily. It didn't give me as much time to spam my Outrider shots as I would have liked. But all in all, they weren't like massive misplays, but they were definitely mistakes, and I don't think it's possible to just discount them. And finally, I just didn't do that great of a job of shutting down the missiles. Yumi's did get some value when against my Demigryphs, especially with his Dark Shards. I'm pretty sure that's part of the reason they buckled so easily. On Yumi's side of things, letting the Dark Riders get caught out super early was, I think, a huge misplay. If they'd managed to stick around to later game, they could have run off the Outriders grenade launchers especially. In turn, that would mean the infantry could stick around, be a much more potent zoning tool. It would allow the Dark Shards, and then the Dark Shards could really cover against the Pistoliers. I think it's kind of a snowball effect. The Dark Riders got caught up in those melee fights that they really shouldn't have been in, and it screwed them. Obviously, screening against Dark Riders is very difficult. There's not much to fault there. I do think the inordinate focus against the Outriders with grenade launchers, especially into late game, was a massive, massive misuse of resources. I think that especially once the game was at a stage where basically all of Yumi's shooting was gone, there was no way in hell my Outriders had essentially no value. They're not going to kill Marathi. They're not going to kill 2 Masters. At that point, you want to focus on the Pistoliers, and I think that focus needs to be on them, and much more so than my Outriders grenade launchers, and that didn't happen. So I think that was a bit of a waste of Melkos Miasma and Winds of Magic. Getting like even just one more Soul Steal that game might have been enough to swing the tide, because look at how close this came down to. Basically, both armies were eradicated. So just some thoughts there. Very well played to Yumi's. Fun build, fun game. Really did come down to the wire. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you found it entertaining and fun. As usual, leave your thoughts, opinions, comments, and critiques down below. I'll do my best to respond as soon as I can. Do thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.